Yay.
So we are on and we are recording. No introduction. I just fired away.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me on.
No. It took a little bit of time.
Okay.
Took a little bit of time, week or so.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
always
but we made it.
it's always hard trying to tee things up. I got a couple of people I speak to over in America, and yeah, their time zone, they're like 17 hours behind. So it's like sometimes I've got to get up at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. just to do a video. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm actually just looking at the recording. I'm like, I could pass as like a little small midget because
you look tiny.
I'm so far away from the camera. Look, I think we should be okay. I don't need to adjust it. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all cool. So where do you want to start this? Where do you want to take it?
Oh, well.
I was going to just maybe just see, I don't know if you wanted to take it to your sort of side of the whole censorship side of things when, I believe you were censored not long ago for maybe speaking up. Yeah, I mean, I haven't quite heard
Yeah.
your story about that, but if you, because I mean, the reason I kind of came over to YouTube and started a channel was because I was getting censored on Instagram just for speaking up. So I kind of come over here because it was almost like when they sort of announced COVID that the recording length on the Instagram story shortened, where they were only giving you four 16-second clips, where before you could probably record about 5 minutes if you were to put it on.
Yep.
Yeah. They cut that short, and the next minute they started, putting sort of links and tags and stuff to your posts and restricted me. So I'm like, I need more time. I need to get all this stuff off my chest because, I could see with what you're aware of that's going on. Like I could see all the cracks with, in the beginning of this, like February, March last year, that I knew that this was larger scale. So yeah, I needed to speak up. So
That's
yeah.
great. You don't find the same censorship issues on YouTube though? They haven't flagged your account yet or anything? Because that's another hotspot for...
Well, I think it's keywords that are said. But the only thing I've replied a sort of a New World Order comment to someone's comment, and what I wrote was rejected. I couldn't write it, and it was basically like just this sort of coded cryptic message about just about a specific crime family in America and an agenda and all this stuff that happened in Libya and all this stuff. Like it was just an answer to it, and I must have been pretty accurate in what I said, and yeah, YouTube didn't let me say it. But no, that's the only thing. But I mean, look, some of the things I touch on, like I'm not hardcore in that censorship category where, as you know, there's a lot of people being deplatformed. So I don't think number one, I don't think I've got the audience. I mean, if I had maybe 30,000, 50,000 followers to these people that have been removed, then quite possibly they might see me as a threat. But I've only got a small amount, so I'm no threat to the YouTube community.
Yet.
Yet, yeah, yeah. Well, so yeah. So what happened with you?
Look, I think the reason I felt so shocked with what happened with me is because I was a private account. Yeah. I'd seen accounts, just like you were saying, big accounts getting deleted and deplatformed and shadow banned and everything for a while. So the concept was totally familiar to me, but my account was a private account, just, people, friends I know in real life. I had maybe, like 200 to 300 followers, and everyone that I knew, I'm there posting pictures of my kids and everything, but then as well on the side talking about lots of my opinions and takes on what's going on in the world. And then to just get my account deleted, I woke up one day and my account was deleted, no explanation. I did get an explanation. Sorry.
I was going to say, were you like following specific anon accounts?
Oh yeah, all of it. I mean, I was following and talking about everything under the sun. It's just that I was talking to, just people, just my friends in real life, just trying to drop some red pills to anyone that'll listen, really, and not out to get like a big audience, not out to get any publicity, not out to grow and none of that. So I think that was what was really shocking to me, that they were coming after accounts that, as tiny as and insignificant as mine. And that's when I was like, wow, they're really trying to crack down on this, crack down on any form of dissident thought.
Well, not speech, but the other person's opinion on things. I can definitely agree. I can definitely agree. So you were, so just to kind of scratch on the sort of anon and the Q sort of stuff. So you were following that sort of pretty religiously, I take it, or pretty hardcore?
Yeah. In the sense, as in my current opinion on it, I guess is I followed since I think it was April 2018. So back then it was really early in the game still. And I think we spoke about this briefly once. It was a really different quality and feel, and it was a really small, tight-knit community and whatnot. So I'd followed since then, and my opinion, I guess to this day, is that there's definitely something going on there, and it's one of two options in my opinion. Either they are exactly who they say they are, or then they are. It's one or the other. I think for the people that dismiss the entire, operation entirely and say there's nothing to it, I think that's really naive. And I think that they're normally going to be the people that haven't followed for a long time, that haven't gone through all the drops, that haven't, been through the stuff that, just the enormous amount of material that people have who have followed from the beginning or close to it. And I think once you add enough coincidences up, you can see that there's a working together of certain people. It's just a question of where are they actually taking us, which direction. It's one or the other, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think over the last week or two, the whole PSYOP alarm bells are starting to ring, where I think a few people around the world are disappointed. But I think the foundation of it all, has to be somewhat true. Because if you tie everything, into it, then it does all make sense. But I just think that people have jumped on it and formed community where the audience is large, where, you might be, let's just, not to put anyone in a category, but, let's say you're like not a nobody, but say you're seeking something, you're seeking friendship or whatever, like something that might resonate with you. You've got like 100 people that all sort of speak the same language in this whole movement where, you've got followers of 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, and it's like this whole big community that was just formed. So it's almost like, a sport, everyone has this one interest, and, some things, yes, made sense. Some things are true, but I just think a lot of people jumped on it and just kind of worded it their own sort of way. Like I've seen a lot of stuff that, they tended to create their own language out of it. That's where, like one, for example, the other day dated back to a post that was 2018, and it was like Red 6, and then Mike, you've probably seen it, but it was like, and then Mike Pompeo shared a photo of 6 bottles of red wine, and everyone was like, oh, it's a sign, Red 6. And I'm just like, there's got to be a line that's drawn to it, because you know, there was I know that there was a lot of confusion with the meaning of dark to light, and what a few people sort of thought that was. But, you know, the way I translate it, like there was a lot of people that watched Out of the Shadows and The Fall of the Cabal. And I think that, you know, if you consume something so much, it then becomes your sort of reality, you know? So I think that a lot of people just sort of maybe shifted their sort of perception and believed that, you know, because it could take you on a bit of a red, like a carpet Aladdin journey into this mystic, you know, wonderland.
Alternate reality.
Yeah, like, you know, you could watch one video, and you just, you know, you get that light, you get that love, you get that peace, you get that sort of biblical references, and then you see Trump, and then you feel like, geez, you know, he's born again, and, you know, like all of these things. And is is JFK Jr. going to pop up, you know, like, and you're like, and you believe it. And it really gave a lot of hope, you know, like, and it can take you away.
Yep.
But
you spoke about Pence. You probably have seen that envelope video at the
what was in the envelope. I messaged one of my friends, I think yesterday or the day before, and I said to him, I said, have you seen what was in the envelopes? And he said yes. And he said his reply back to me was, they know everything, sorry. And I said to him, I said, what about if it was a photo of Senior on a firing range, or a photo of Senior hung? You know,
that would
because
whatever it was freaked them out, all of them. And Pence was one. Pence and his wife, they got a letter. So
I mean, the look on Jeb Bush's face, and then George Bush just shrugged it off, and it was like, I mean, I really want to know, you know, but
I know.
like, it's,
and
like,
it was,
you know, like Hillary's look, she looked like she was just like snubbed, but
poker face. She had a good poker face.
From what I've heard, though, the Clintons themselves are a pretty powerful family. Powerful, massive. Like, we're talking they got their hands on like $1 trillion empire, like massive. And this is why she never goes away. This is why she keeps popping up, because, you know, she goes back to being the first lady of Bill in the late 90s, and then she was the senator, and then she's, you know, she's been around since, I don't know, like pre-80s. So her pen in politics has signed a lot of things off, you know, so you can't go back and you can't disconnect. You know, whatever Trump was doing in the background, whether he was trying to take down the establishment and trying to take down the Vatican, trying to take down the royal family, which I honestly feel like he did. I think he's, you know, the way he words things, and he says, you know, the new administration and this and that, like, I feel that what if, like, this whole Biden inauguration thing is an illusion, and in the real world, America is not the corporation it is anymore, because Trump's disconnected it from the British Empire and stuff like that, or whoever is the corporation of it. Like, maybe America is its own independence, where it doesn't rely on, you know, anything anymore. So Biden being president is irrelevant, because Trump's dismantled all of those ties. So you might claim that you're a president, but you've got no power. Like, no one knows what Trump's done in the background to tie all this off and finish all this off. But
well, one thing I think, well, if you think back to the royal family, I don't, and again, times and dates for me, it's all a blur, because I'm a mum of 2, and time is very different for me. I don't have a Monday to Friday anymore. It's all one big day. But if you remember back to whenever it was that Trump visited England and met with the Queen, and you'd probably remember these photos. If
Yeah.
the photos where
Wearing
he's walking
black.
ahead of walking ahead of the Queen, and just, you know, behaving in all sorts of ways that, I mean, maybe some people would put it down to arrogance, but I think at the same time, the gestures that people, to think that a world leader of any sort would not be coached in how to behave, and the significance of their behavior around other people, especially in front of the camera. I think it's all very calculated, and you can see it with back in the day as well with Macron, how him and Macron were having these it's quite funny actually if you go down that, just YouTube that or something, the way that they have these sort of power struggles on in front of TV. So I think Trump is very, very aware of it, down to the placement of your hand and what kind of handshake you do and who walks first. And okay, he did this, so I'm going to pat him on the back to show that I'm still, you know, the dominant one. Like, there's a lot of language going on. I think he's very aware. Even as a businessman, you'd be very aware of your body language in that sense. So to see him walk around the Queen the way that he did, it tells me at least that there was some sort of power differential there. It was just interesting to see. You said something else there that I forgot what you were saying, but that, yeah, when you say stuff about like what he's done in the background, well, I don't imagine that somebody, again, if you go along with the possibility that they're good, if we stick to that narrative for a second, I don't think you get this far and then give up. So if Q is exactly who they say they are, this is not over. There's not a chance it's over. If you go with the narrative that they're a psyop, well, then I guess they're going to see where this goes, because then there's one direction, it's the New World Order. But again, I believe if that was the direction, we'd be in it already. So for me,
well, I mean, look, I can see there's a lot of dark things that happen, like a shadow that was casted over America throughout his presidency. And go back to the Vegas thing, you can see a dark shadow, Black Lives Matter, dark shadow. Not the pandemic as such, but, you know, you could question, was he good? Like, you can see the left's argument. Like, people think, you know, now that if you support Trump from the left, like you're a terrorist. You know, there's like this thing between the two of them. But if you go on the other side and have a look, I mean, you can see, not to the extreme that they make it, like saying that he's a white supremacist and he's all of these sort of things, and they class him to being the equivalent of a dictator and like Hitler. You know, I think that whenever you hear the left or the media portray something about Trump, it's actually them. You know, like they were saying that Trump's going to try and steal the election. They were saying that Trump's going to do this. They were going to say all these things. So it's always like they turn it around. But there was a very sort of, a very dark shadow over America for a while, where you could see that sort of power struggle between the two. And you're right. Like, I definitely don't think it's over. You know, I think, as he says, the best is yet to come. But I mean, you know,
another Q phrase.
Yeah, yeah. And I think still we're still fighting this this stronger power source. But I just want to ask you sort of two questions, because I know that we said we're going to talk about the meditation.
Yeah. Let's go there.
But
Let's go there.
I just want to ask you these two questions first. But one,
go for it.
I'm just going to say them and you just answer them whenever you want. But one being, is this sort of stuff like a part of your life or just an interest? Like, do you consume it that much? Like, is it something that you're fully plugged into, or is it something you can disconnect and, you know, take it for what it is? Or you sort of, you know, you strongly believe about this, you know? So with saying that, to go into that, like, do you find it hard to kind of just speak to people about it? You know, like whether, you know, whether you can communicate with people and just say, like, there's this thing that's going on that's like this imaginary, or not imaginary, like this invisible sort of, internet sort of. Anyway, go. You know what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Loaded question. Lots of different aspects to answer them. I'd say initially I got really wrapped up into it, mainly because before I learnt about Q, I learnt about Pizzagate, which, I mean, speaking of dark, like that took a part of my soul. That was so dark, so difficult. And so when Q starts, I guess, revealing information about that, I got really wrapped up in it because I was just like so horrified. And I think when I learned about kids, what happens to kids, and the thing is, I learned about it before by listening to survivors speak out. So I was already really fired up about that, about what happens to people, or allegedly happens. I don't have any firsthand experience, but you listen to a lot of people say the same story from decades, spend decades, and you know about some verifiable things like MK Ultra and all these things. It's not, it's only out of the stretch of the imagination for people that refuse to look into it at all. So I believe in Pizzagate, especially when you go down some of the Elephantis and all these things. But point being that, yeah, it really wrapped me up in that for a while because I just wanted to investigate and expose the shit out of it. And so when you say, can you talk to people about it? Well, I did. And I started, especially, I got to a breaking point, I think, and I was like, I can't stay silent on this because I know what happens to these children. And it's, even from like a spiritual perspective, I think it's sort of the karmic effects of knowing something that dark is going on because of people's silence and because of people's inaction. I felt compelled to speak out against it in whatever small way I could. So I started to post about it on my personal Facebook and my personal Instagram, and was met with very varied reactions. And it did sort of take a toll learning about that stuff. And I've come to, over the years, learn to unplug when needed and to find more balance, because it was very unbalanced for a while. But I've definitely learned balance and key, and a lot of that was through, nice segue here, through the spiritual connection to something higher, through meditation, through trusting in forces that are bigger than ourselves. Because before, it was not a big part of my life, spirituality, but having the that sense of something bigger than us has really helped me balance and unplug when I need to. And especially seeing as well the growth of the movement, and not feeling like it's, all on one person's shoulders to wake everyone up, or else the New World Order is going to roll in, and that was a feeling for a while, which is ridiculous when I think about it now. But yeah, so I hope that sort of answers it. So it's sort of,
it
yeah.
did. And then the other thing, which I kind of forgot, but then you reminded me, the other thing was, so what do you think all of this is? And when I say that, I mean, what do you think this world is that we're on, or this reality, like this, like, what do you think this whole design is?
Oh, so interesting. This is the stuff that really like fires my soul at the moment. It is something that I am just obsessed with trying to figure out and understand. It is so interesting. Um, Well, my beliefs are that I don't, at the end of the day, I don't know anything. So, I can't verify anything through like a scientific method, but I don't think when you start to open yourself up to spirituality anyway, you kind of realize that some things at this stage in our human consciousness and evolution cannot be scientifically proven, and science is actually really slow and stuff, and compared to spiritual, even ancient spiritual knowledge. So I think what you're asking is like, what is the nature of reality and everything? And my personal understanding comes from reading a lot of different texts, but probably my favorite one, and the one that resonated with me the most, was the Law of One. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
There's something about.
But I know, I don't know where you're about to take this. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Like, don't think, like, don't ask me anything about it. Like, because, yeah,
Okay.
so, like, don't, because I don't, I get the concept. I get where you're going with it, but keep going. Keep going.
Okay. All right. I guess my understanding of nature is that there is a creator, and that the creator is a force, a consciousness, and an energy, whatever you want to call it, that wants to experience itself in a sense. It wants to experience, full stop. And I think my belief is that we are all infinite energy that has been fragmented into this false sense of separateness, and that we are on one of many planes, one of many densities or dimensions that are here in the creation, experiencing life in order to learn lessons and to evolve, so that we become closer and closer to light, and closer to the ultimate creator in the end of it. So I believe that souls are eternal. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that people experience many, many, many lives, not just here on Earth, but other areas of creation. And and I think the 3D physical world that we live in right now is but one matrix that gives us a tiny fraction of reality and experience, that on top of that we experience through very limited senses. So I guess I believe there's much more out there.
Yeah.
The short answer.
Look, I will tell you what I say to everyone.
Yeah.
You know, this topic has so many doors, and I can open so many. My favorite one is, you know, if by thought, you know, everything around us has been created by man, you know, this, everything by thought, you know, even myself was thought, you know, my dad, the night of my creation, thought about his ego, and thought about his own selfishness, and thought he might, you know, have intercourse with my mother, you know. So by thought, everything was by thought, everything was created. So if we are, or if I am sitting on the lounge playing PlayStation, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, and inside that TV box is a player or a game or whatever, I'm using that control pad, and I can create, like, I'm moving that thing around, you know, and in that reality, that game can have game over, needs feeding, needs energy, needs weapons, needs all these things. Doesn't matter. There's tasks, there's missions, there's all these things. So in that realm, which I can't see because it needs special chips and microprocessors and all these other things, which is a different network altogether, right? But you plug it into the wall and you turn the power on, and then this thing's created, right? So in that, I'm controlling it. Now, man created that, you know. So if man can create that, and by thought anything is possible, what's to say that there is not something higher up that's created this, because
Very interesting analogy.
right. So you basically, I could be Grand Theft Auto, I could be Call of Duty, and that thing, that monkey brain, that sort of thing that is in control of me, like that's just the other self, the higher self interacting with me,
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
and by vibration, by frequency, that I can pick and choose or level up or do whatever. But if you tie in then by thought, I am the sort of, oh, hang on, let me go and open up another door. So the other door being that we live in this parallel universe, right? There's multiple different timelines by infinity,
Yeah.
right? By thought or by choice, by vibration, if I go and have if I choose to get up, go to the gym in the morning, and go to work, then come home. Now I don't drink, but let's just say one day I chose to drink. I bought some alcohol, I drank, I bought a pack of cigarettes, I smoked them. And then the next day I woke up, I was hungover. But let's say in the multi-dimensional multiverse, let's say that another version of me that chose not to buy those drinks, that chose to go to the gym in the afternoon, exists, and so on and so forth by infinity. There's all these different variations of myself in this different timeline. Now, all of that is by choice and by vibration. Now, depending on what vibration I am or whatever I tap into, I can live any of those lives by choice. And right now I'm actually living this life by choice. But I could have been anything. I could have been an actor, I could have been a singer, I could have been all these things. But this life, I'm not, because right now I'm tapped into this frequency. So, in saying that, then you can also go back to saying, well, is this whole thing a simulation? Is this, what is this? Is this a game? Like, is this reality even real? Like, is it an illusion? And I think that, Elon Musk says it the best, where he says that, that there's more evidence to say that we are actually in a simulation than that we're not. And I think with like this Starlink and with AI and 5G and quantum computers, the technology in quantum computers is so advanced that they can sort of not bend space and time, but sort of project the future through data. So we are actually in this sort of verge of, if we do step over into this next sort of phase or this next point in evolution, which we are in this stage of evolving, that high chances that this whole thing is just a hologram. This whole thing is the Matrix. So look, there's so many different things, and again, I say so many things to a lot of people around me, friends and stuff. But you go and look at the 80s and the 90s, like this world didn't exist. It's only like the last 20 years, the digital sort of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 4G streaming, iPhone, like all of this stuff now exists, where we have a generation of people that don't know about VHS, cassette tapes, don't know about anything before Google. So we've almost, in the last, say, 10 years, advanced more in the last 10 years than what we have in the last 50 years, where it's almost like somebody has stopped the old game or stopped the old program, whether that hard drive was full, and plugged in a new hard drive, where we're now in this digital sort of way, or this digital reality, or this digital life, where the 80s and the 90s just no longer exists. If you look at it and translate it even further than that, and you look at Y2K and what they prophesized about Y2K, I mean, all of that sort of stuff sort of adds up to where we're at now.
2012 as well.
Yeah, well, exactly.
With 2012.
Yeah, well, actually, 2012 is actually sort of now. And that and even saying that, I think with this great conjunction, I don't know if it's in another 800 years, but if that great conjunction happens every 800 years, then I think the next time that they will be within each other. I think the one that went on the 21st of December was within 1 degree. So I think the next cycle or whatever, but yeah, I think that wherever we move and shift into this age of Aquarius is what the Mayan calendar actually predicted with this new age back in 2012. So, but yeah, everything sort of that ties into now, like everything around it, all very scary. I don't think that it's a coincidence that we're all here,
No,
like
I don't
I don't,
either.
yeah, like I don't think that, you look at the Great Awakening, like why has all of this happened? Why did the Q movement change the thoughts of tens of millions of people around the
Yes,
world, so
yes,
again,
it
like,
did.
yeah, like dark to light, like this is the Great Awakening. This is something bigger and more powerful than me or you or a bunch of anons can control. Like this is way bigger. I think
Well,
that something more powerful behind it is driving this force.
yes.
And it's definitely not over, and
Well, yeah.
I
You've said something very interesting. So, but sorry, you finish. But
what I did.
yes, you said something very interesting there. That well, when you said how the Q movement changed a lot of conscious thought, and that was sort of what I was going. I mean, to connect it all together, really. Going back to what I was saying earlier, how people were not discussing these things publicly, not to the degree that people are now. People weren't discussing corruption. People weren't discussing Pizzagate. There's some YouTube videos and this and that, but nothing to the degree that we've seen now. So if we bring it back to like spirituality and the laws of nature and the universe and quantum physics and all that, which I mean, I throw that around, but I have only a sort of basic understanding
Said
of
the word twice.
yeah. I don't yeah, I don't understand it on a scientific level, but some basic concepts I can wrap my head around, I guess. And so when you think about the power of collective consciousness, so here's another thing. Should Q be a psyop, why would you band millions together to collectively think about the demise of the old guard, of the corrupt, the exposure of the corrupt, and think about the freeing of humanity? If you think it from a quantum physics, collective consciousness level, and like you were talking about, the different timelines and the different parallel realities that exist, and you go to a certain vibration and you fizzle to, or not fizzle, you fuse to a certain reality. Now think about that with millions of people, as you said, following this movement and many other sort of awakening movements, not just this one. And I believe it's why the media is such a darker and more powerful tool than even what most truthers, tap into. I think controlling the people's consciousness controls timelines. So here you have an ultimate
Yes.
movement
Yes.
that is changing people's collective consciousness on a massive scale.
Did you see the video I done yesterday?
No, I haven't. Have you touched on this?
Because it's exactly what I did.
Aha.
I drew a I called it what I called it. I called it something for dummies. The Great Awakening for Dummies, or so I can't think of what I called it. I called it something, not like calling people dummies, but like the books.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I drew like a sort of a box and said, like this is the bad collective, and then drew a box of good, and sort of wrote down, like COVID, masks, all these other things that fit into
Yeah.
bad, and then in good being places of prayer, places of worshipped, and then the more you cripple that, the more the collective of good is going to overtake. And
Yeah.
yes, 100%. You're completely right. I think that this is a, this is a race war, and it's overall it's a war, and this is why I'm so anti-COVID, anti-mask, is because they're breaking our human spirit, and it's a psychological warfare where they're breaking us down and
Yep.
weakening us. But I think they are trying to tap in, what are they, not astral projection, but they call it something where they can tap into this, sort of foresee the future. And
Yep.
if this is digital, if this is a hologram, if whatever this is, and again, going back to how advanced the quantum computers are and seeing ahead of us, like through time and space and twisting things, then time travel is a possibility. And, they said that they turned CERN on, in 2005, 2012, and the Hadron Collider, where you can notice, this is where I wanted to take this whole vibration frequency meditation sort of thing, something that I've noticed, and through when I sent you those quantum jumps and higher, that right now there is two, because of CERN, because of them turning it on, they have opened up the portal that's left open access by different entities and demonic entities, demons, whatever, through the portal of CERN by them turning it on. So we are in this two realities of good versus evil being played out. And it's not by chance, and something has happened with CERN that's thrown all of this off, that the magnetic force and the power of it has pulled it down in through space and time, which has completely changed this whole future. And this is where, like, again, going back to where I said about the 80s and 90s feels like it wasn't real because of how digital we are, where we are in this different timeline, and they talk about the Mandela effect, where Mandela was meant to die, but realistically he was alive. But you ask people about it, or you talk about specific quotes in movies, like mirror, mirror on the wall. Like, it wasn't mirror, mirror on the wall. It was magic mirror on the wall. There was this other.
I didn't have that. I have the other one.
And there's this other quote with, what's his name? Not Kurt. God damn it! In Field of Dreams.
Don't know it. Can't help you.
keep going to say Kevin Costner. I think Kevin Costner. Yeah, Field of Dreams. And it's like, if you build it, they will come. But it's something else. It's like, if you build it, they will come. And you go and look at it and you go, what? No, like, and we all our life we've been quoting all these words. And there's another one. There's a few of them. There's a few movie quotes. And you ask anyone and you go, what did it say? And they could swear about it. And this is where they turn back and they say about the Mandela effect, And it's like, it's so spooky, but not many people can sort of pick up on it. But the best way, I'm going to go back here just to explain this better, but if you consume something, you kind of make it your reality. So, if I go into my phone and I'm on Facebook and I go through threads and stuff like that, like, I'm consumed into that world. I've created that world. But if you push your phone away and you go out in the country around the outback, like, that doesn't exist, all the drama, all the wars, all the chaos, all the, that doesn't exist, So you got to question it all and go, like, this is such an illusion. That's where I got the name of calling this channel, the game experience, because through all of that way I see it all, you can change the game. So yeah,
I'd believe in that. I can't comment too much about the CERN stuff because I haven't. Is it still open? I had this idea that it was closed,
I think
but
so.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a crazy science experiment. I think it goes for like 17 miles in diameter along the border of France and Geneva, Switzerland. So many hundreds of meters underground.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I do think it's definitely was used for nefarious purposes, and not. I
Yeah.
don't think any. I mean, for anyone, surely by now everyone has come to the conclusion that the media feeds you a narrative and not does not tell you the full truth, and surely everybody has some basic concept that things run behind the scenes that
Mm.
the average Joe doesn't
Mm.
doesn't know about. Because you get people who, you talk about anything like this and they shut down and like not possible and blah blah blah. And it's I find it a very naive worldview to believe that we the public know everything there is to know, and that the information that we're spoon fed is all there is to know about any given subject, and there's no other possibilities around it. And so yeah,
Well,
in terms of CERN and the way that they use that, I've heard things, but I haven't like deep dived into any of that. But I do believe that there are different timelines, and which is why I think, yeah, we're at a stage where we need to align ourselves as a collective
mm,
with a positive future. And I
mm,
think that's really important on a spiritual level, even when it feels really dark. I think
mm.
that at the same time, as well, actually going into like personal experiences that we were going to talk about, I think when
Yes.
you have a personal experience,
Mm.
nice little segues here, when you have a personal experience of both dark and light, um, your understanding of reality changes, and your understanding of the power of what's essentially manifestation really cements. Because I used to be the type of person, well, as a kid, I think I was really sort of naturally in tune with all this. And I think going through the school system, interestingly enough, I think it shut me off to a lot of intuitive um, senses. And I think I got to a place in high school when I was like, it's science, science, science. And if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. And it took me a long time. And I still sort of, even up to a few years ago, I was like, I can believe something, but until I personally experience something, I'm going to hold it with a grain of salt. Because,
Mm.
it was just drilled into me about science and proving everything and blah, blah, blah. But now having personal experiences with things that can't be explained in the normal paradigm and laws of nature that we're given through school and through your common thought, common collective thought. Yeah, I think I can really come to a place of understanding that there are forces. There are forces. There are good forces and there are dark forces. But coming back to the spirituality aspect and the way that I see the world and the way I see the matrix and the reality, in the end, I think we're all one and the same, and that we've all been created by the same source, and that um,
A prison
I
planet.
don't necessarily, on one level I see it, on one level I see it as that, on one level I see it as opposing forces, and on another level I see it as the opposing being the illusion, and that we are actually one and the same, a yin and a yang, and are coming together, and that the higher you evolve, the more the separateness drops, and the
Mm.
more that we come merge together as a collective consciousness, and the idea of good and evil actually drops and isn't relevant anymore, because I believe the created experience to be both the bully and the victim. Because when you create to experience, kind of like in a computer game, like you like your computer game analogies. So I think in a computer game, you can choose to be the bad guy and you can choose to be the good guy. And then sometimes it's just interesting to experience both, just for the sake of experience, or different characters, or whatever it is, having choice. And even if you're a good person and you're of a good nature, sometimes you, in a matrix reality, choose to experience something so that you learn. And that's how I see reality in the end anyway. But anyway, I do believe on these lower planes of existence that there are two opposing forces.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where the media tries to keep us. They try and keep us in that collective state of fear, you know, where if it's not ISIS, or terrorists to keep us
and
scared.
Separateness.
Yeah, like now it's cases, you know. So keeping us dumbed down in that frequency makes us a part of that sort of society where, you know, we're in tune to it. But, you start to tap out of it and you start to tap into your own self and go within, you know, you'll find that you will then start to change your sort of reality a little bit because there's no external influence to sort of change your perception of things, you know, like, it's like, you know, someone like, you know, having that naughty friend that's trying to, come on, let's go this way. Like, let's go this way and, you know, do something bad, you know, or let's go this way and do something good. Like, it's like that. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, do I want to ride my push bike? And, you know, I don't know the best way to put it. Do I want to ride my push bike with no helmet?
You get influenced by others.
Yeah, like, it's like, oh, what do I do? You know, like, so it's, you know, it's all there. And again, it's all by choice, you know, and like, no matter whether it's under the same category as being ignorant, you know, like, what would you prefer to do? Like, would you prefer to be somebody that's asleep right now and not know what's about to happen? Or would you want to be somebody that's heavily taken, not one red pill, but 15, and, you know, can see ones and zeros and sees the matrix like fully coded? Like, what would you want? Would you want to see the world for what it is? Because, I mean, I think that some people, you know, by choice, I mean, even if you are saying to them, hey, check out these Q posts, check out this, I'm trying to show you this, like, this is the real world. This is the real world. I mean, some people choose not to go down that path.
They can't
either.
go there.
Well, I you know, like, I think one important thing is, and this is something I heard, that because we're tribal species, you know, and because through over time and evolution, like, you know, let's go back, say 10,000 years ago when we'll say tribal men, like, we weren't all so scattered around the world. Like now, you know, in one continent, you'll have every single race from every sort of country in the one sort of area. But because we've traveled and migrated and stuff like that, is that our tribe, you know, if I was from a specific part of the world in my tribe, I'd speak a certain way. It's like religion and how it dates back in England, and why England has so many different sort of tones in their language is because you were recognized by your language, and your language predicted your sort of religion base or whatever. So it's like, like me and you can have this conversation about this red pill stuff, about this Q stuff. Like, realistically, if you were to follow where we come from, our origins thousands of years ago, through sort of DNA code and stuff like that, we come from the same area where this is how we understand each other. But you go someone on the other side, like a left sort of person, they don't understand this language because through their DNA code and through their tribe, they're on another part of the world. So it's like language that they don't understand. That's why it doesn't sort of sink in. That's why they can't communicate. So you find that there are some people you can talk to, but, you know, using this the best way to explain it, they don't understand your language. You know, it's like if you speak Chinese, if you speak this, you speak that. Same with like conspiracies, same with all these sort of things. You know, some things tune into people. And, you know, again, like some people are just so heavily asleep where you're never going to wake them up, and you just got to leave them there, even though it's frustrating. Like a family member of mine, I'm just going to say my sister, she is so left and far left, where she doesn't want to know about this world. You know, she doesn't want to know about this other life, where this other life I try and introduce of being in tune with yourself, being connected to your body, being so connected to your body where you understand your gut biome, understand what food you put into your body, understand that different sort of food you put into your body sends signals to your brain, which would then, you know, put you in a good mood or bad mood, and can make you do the right choices, make you feel happy. You know, do sort of yin yoga where you do get that yin and yang mind sort of body balance and stuff like that, where you start to activate all these things within inside you, where you start to get in sync with the harmony of the earth, or you're in tune with your frequency and your hertz, on this path where all of the chaos and destruction in the earth just doesn't exist, because you're up here. Like, you've completely tapped out of that because you're so connected to yourself. And like, I try and say to people, I say, you need yoga. Like, you got past trauma. You got, like, I say to everyone, like, you need yoga. You need yoga. Some people are like, yeah, whatever. Like, some people don't get it, but like, this other side, like, there's a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I've been listening to him for about 2 years, since 2018. And everything he talks about, now I have an idea, I can translate it. But everything he spoke about in the beginning, when I used to listen to him, I had no idea. Like, he was talking about about creating a new self and creating a new future and creating a new life. And by, altering your day or your routine, you can get rid of old memories or old emotions. So say, for example, if you're driving in the car, and you're going to work, and the structure of your life is you get up at 7, do all the stuff you have to do, hop in your car at 8 o'clock, go to work, do the same thing the next day, same thing the next day, same thing the next day, same traffic, same cars, same people, same life, constantly. You start to develop this thing in your subconscious where your brain becomes a program. You're in traffic, you think about road rage, you think about drama on the TV, you think about all these things. So by thought, you're thinking about memories which connect you to emotions which might make you sad, or things like that. So by saying that, if you can think about a memory and it's connected to an emotion, then basically that's like saying, well, then by your brain, you can sort of, as a placebo effect, you can predict your future if you can sort of predict your past by emotion. So if you change your life and change that 9 to 5 or that, yang lifestyle, and you maybe get up earlier, introduce fitness, change your diet, you then start to generate new thoughts. And then with new thoughts, you've got new emotions, and new emotions, you've got all these sorts of things, where you start to develop this new self of yours where the old self doesn't exist. And you are this completely new person, like, there's all of these things where, you surround yourself with people, that are always sick, or people in nursing homes and stuff like that, where you do end up becoming sick, but you can be ill, and using that sort of program or that way of thought, that you can, again, by placebo effect, you can heal yourself, So I always try and point this in the direction of other people and go, like, there's this other life out there that actually works, that actually exists, and it's something that we're not told, because they try and keep us over here. Fear, propaganda, trumps this, trumps that, like all this clutter, So,
absolutely. I think, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think you really do shape your reality, and if you're able to change your present, you change your future. Absolutely. I think also the way I see it as well is I guess your soul's evolution over the however many lifetimes that you've had. And I see everything as a lesson. So for me, I think that some people's lessons on earth are
karmic debt.
just not to what's that, karmic debt, and also they might just be in a different place in their soul evolution. And I tying back to the sort of grand scale of things, and the way that many ancients predicted this time. I mean, even in that Law of One book series that I was talking about, you should read it. It's really interesting, because it was essentially these people channeling an entity back in, I believe it was the 70s or 80s. And they were talking about this exact time and the sort of turmoil and stuff that's happening in this time. And they talk about, I guess, what you would call ascension, and that the different souls are here to experience this chaos right now in order to use it as a catalyst one way or another, a positive direction, or you use it as a catalyst for a what you quote unquote negative direction. And then there are the people who are lukewarm, and and essentially that we're in this specific time period, sort of like astrologically, where as a collective people can go to the next level or not. And the lukewarm people who haven't sort of chosen a path for themselves, it's neither good or bad, it's just that they perhaps need to repeat this density in order to learn the lessons that their soul needs to learn. So the way that I sort of see it, and it's sometimes it's hard to remember, because I do, like you said, I have friends and family members who think completely different from me, and see the world completely differently from me, and it has been very frustrating at times, and I have wanted to, you know, shake people awake, but at the same time, when I come back to it, I think, yeah, that the highest law is the law of free will. And I think when you respect the free will of people, that means respecting the people that want to stay asleep. And thank God I've come to a place now where I don't, because I used to believe that we all had to wake up in order to, you know, stop this crazy, evil New World Order plan from steamrolling us over. And I think I was probably intruding on people's free will to stay asleep. And that was a sort of spiritual lesson for me. You know, I think that to allow people to choose to stay asleep, and in the grand scheme of things, I think, because I believe that your soul is an internal energy, in the end, I'd say it doesn't matter, because they will go on to experience a reality at the frequency and at the level that they're at. And that once I pass, I believe my soul will choose the new lessons that it needs to learn. If I need to repeat them in this reality, in this matrix, and in this sort of setting of chaos and all that, then I guess that's what my soul will do. And if I learn the lessons I need to learn, perhaps I will go somewhere else to learn different lessons. That's what I believe.
Do you think that one of the, I'm going to use the word conspiracy, but this is like a myth, or do you think one of the biggest conspiracies in the entire world could quite possibly be not just wearing shoes to disconnect us from the earth, but one of the biggest conspiracies is that we get buried in the ground in a coffin, that maybe there's another way that we should or need to go. Like you look at mummies and stuff and what the Egyptians done, like they are into some weird shit, you know, like what did they know? Why aren't we wrapped in cloth? Like, why aren't we preserved the way that they done in these Tutankhamun tombs? And, you know, like what did they know? Like, do I need to start building a pyramid to be buried in with these secret stuff? Like, you know, is that the biggest letdown, where they know that if they bury us in the ground, then we're just on this sort of repeated reincarnation where we don't get to leave the earth? Like, you know, we don't get to, you know, go back to source, you know, connect to the hub of consciousness to be more unified. Like maybe that is the sort of the disconnection to it all, that maybe we all need to go back to source to be connected, to get that oneness, to get that love. But something is keep dragging us down back here on this earth life. So we are in this prison planet, so we don't get that experience, you know?
Well, I'm not sure it has to do with how you're buried, but that could be one of the biggest conspiracies and new conspiracies that I've heard. I haven't come across that idea. That's quite good.
I think about a lot of. I've got a lot of questions. Got a lot of questions.
I
But
love it.
I yeah, I recall. So this one guy called Brian Scott, the guy with the meditation. Actually, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this story. So I had a friend, and still, well, I mean, we don't talk that much. We sort of parted ways a little bit, but he's always got a place, you know. So we were in the gym and we were training, and he started telling me about his sister seeing a medium, and hopefully I'll try and keep it real short so I don't drag on. I feel like this story could take 50 minutes. But I'll try. Okay,
must be a good story.
So anyway, so we're in the gym and he's telling me about his sister seeing a psychic, and he started saying all this stuff that this psychic had said. And one of the things that kind of stuck with me was that he was going to have a daughter that was going to be the reincarnation of his nan. And at the time, I don't know if, you know, the full part of it was, but it's not going to be with this partner, you know, currently, you know, it's going to be like a sort of Native American sort of background. Anyway, so this guy was like kind of traveling and stuff like that. So I was like, damn, like, you know, you could go overseas and you could meet your future partner is going to be the reincarnation of your nan. Like I was all excited. Like every time, like he was, you know, every time we went and trained, and you know, there's one time we went to the gym on a Sunday, and we went into this back studio part, and there was this girl in this sort of big long yoga pose stretch. And I got all excited. I'm like, hey, what if this is your daughter's mum that's the reincarnation of your nan? Like, I'm like, what about you? But yeah, so he had a partner at the time. Anyway, and so this girl in the yoga pose, she's yelled out. She's like, oh, can you know, one of you guys pass me this block, you know, so she could get deeper in this stretch. And I was just like this immature idiot, and I was like, oh, I'd go. Anyway, so I ran over, got this block, gave it to her. Next minute, my friend and this yoga, well, she was a yoga teacher. They were having this chat about yoga, and I looked at my friend. I'm like, what do you know about yoga? And he like just turned around, like he must have kept it a secret, bro code. He's just like, oh yeah, I've been doing yoga for 6 months. I'm like, really? I'm like, and I never knew. I was like, what? Okay, I was disappointed because in the back of my mind, you know, I'd heard plenty of people in podcasts that always spoke about yoga. And because I like, you know, in and out of relationships, and I used to drink and couldn't hold a job properly and stuff like that. Like I always heard people who said that when they done yoga, their life changed. And I'm like, maybe this is the secret. Maybe this is something I need to do. Anyway, so this girl, she's like, oh, you guys should check one of our classes out, you know, come down, da, da, da. She's like, you know, it was this specific night. Anyway, so we went to one of the classes, and it was the worst yoga I've ever done. It was like on the dirty floor. It was in the back of this gym. You could hear all these people working out in the background. It was annoying. So anyway, we left the place, and as we left, we drove past another yoga studio. So we bailed in there. We just like barged through these doors that were shut, and it was like these two girls eating this vegan pizza, and I was just this excited person, you know. And anyway, they were like, you know, come down on this Friday night. So we go down on this Friday night, and at this stage, this is like 2018. I'm probably like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe a month, and I hadn't had any alcohol, right? I hadn't drunk and hadn't smoked cigarettes and stuff. And I just started up a company. So anyway, so we're about to go to yoga on this Friday night, and my friend picks me up, and we had to get there at a certain time to sign a waiver. Anyway, he turns up late, hop in his car. He's got no diesel. You know, we're going to be late. I'm stressing out. I'm freaking out. My monkey brain is like anxiety. I'm stressing. I'm like, oh, we're not going to get there on time. We're not going to get there on time. I'm like, and there was a part of me that just wanted to say, fuck it. I don't want to go. Like I was just stressing out because we should have been there at 6:30. We're running late, all this stuff. Anyway, we go to the class, we make it, everything's fine. We leave the class. And when I was like, freaking out, anxiety because we're running late, I come out of it and I looked at him. I'm like, it's like, whoa, man, like that done something to me. Like I just went from like 100 with stress and anxiety to 0. Like I was flat, right? Anyway, so I got this, I love this, like I got this yoga kick. And anyway, I was going once a week, twice a week. This particular one was yin yoga. I don't know if you know yin yoga too much, but you got various forms, hatha, vinyasa, yin yoga, yang dynamic, which is like the go through all the various postures every minute, sort of where yin yoga is holding a pose for 3.5 minutes each side. So you're holding a pose for 7 minutes, left and right. So the yin being the balance that you need with your body to disconnect yourself from the yang life. So anyway, so one of these specific classes, after going months, they used to have 6:30 yin yoga, and then at 7:30 used to be an hour meditation. So I used to do the yin, then do the meditation afterwards. Anyway, I had a few like weird experiences and stuff like that.
Oh, well, tell us about that.
Hang on. Let me get to this, right?
Okay, all right.
I haven't finished this. I got so many yoga stories. Anyway, so like, at the time, I had no money. I just started a company. I didn't have a work vehicle. And I started to use meditation to visualize sort of parts of my company, logo designs, vehicles, stuff like that, where I wanted to take it. So anyway, so we're now like 2 months, 3 months into the little yoga journey. And we had this meditation, class, and they wanted us to sort of visualize a word. And I think the word was success. And I visualized this word and I wrote this word success down in the yoga class. Anyway, I then went, I don't know if it was in this order, but then I ended up getting on the radio a week later, and I ended up winning money through the radio station, like on national radio. They plugged a story to it. It was a little bit embarrassing, put me on national radio. I was ashamed about it. But then about a week or two later, we went back to meditation. Anyway, we were in this class and probably the last 15 minutes in the deep meditation, they went through this guided part of it, and they wanted us to sort of get grounded within ourselves, but think about these things. Anyway, I had this sort of, this flashback, and it went so fast. And it was like, I thought about where I'd came to with my business, with the logo, with winning this money and all of this sort of stuff. And it was like this rewind reel from the beginning, and then a fast forward of everything that's happened in these 3 months. And, right at the end of the meditation, I just like a tear dropped out of my eye, and I just went, whoa, like if we never went to that gym on the Sunday for Sunday Fun Day, and I never got that block for that girl, I would, all of these things that I've just introduced in my life that's been positive, the expenditure of my company, the winning of the money on the radio, introducing this new sort of like raising my vibration in life and doing all these things and tapping up and leveling up. Like I never would have experienced that. And I was just like, holy shit, like this was freaky. Anyway, 12 months later, my friend's partner passed away and goes to South America. And this is where it all gets bizarre. Look, we haven't spoken in 12 months. They may have had the kid, the reincarnation of his nan, but just, hearing the story about that and that little journey and then everything that happened and unfolded 12 months later, like, it shows me that life is like such a bizarre thing that, this medium said this to his friend, and I go on this journey, and these are things that happen in between that. It's there's another
But how much is planned and how much is fate and how much is coincidence and free will,
Well, that's it. Like there's definitely another reality out there that's just, that you wouldn't know exists, because if I did not go to that train, like go to the gym on that Sunday, and even if I said to him, fuck it, let's not go that Friday night, like so many different variations of my life could have got played out, but that happened to be the course of my life that changed my future forever, that opened the door wide to me, and I seen this other world. And ever since then, my life has been completely changed. And I know that if I ever slip and I ever stumble and something's not right, and going back to the gut biome, going back to being grounded and working on your inner self and stuff like that, like I know what I need to do within me. Like I know if all this shit, that's happening with Trump, happening in the world, happening with the gender, happening with the vaccines, I know that deep down, if this starts to get too much for me, like I know exactly where to go. And one thing I sent to you is that higher self meditation, where I remember one time, like at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like March and April, like I ran an ultra marathon at the beginning of March. And then after that, I came back home because I had to travel for it. Came back home, I ate junk food. I got lazy. I got down. I got depressed. And I started tapping into that version of myself, that timeline of myself where I was that shitter version of and I couldn't escape it, because I was in that again, using the Joe Dispenza technique, where I was stuck in that repetitiveness of that same memory, where I had to change it and I just couldn't do it. So I remember this one night I'd done the quantum jump, or the merging with your higher self meditation. And I put the meditation on, I started to go to sleep, and then I woke up hours later. But from when I turned that meditation on to when I woke up hours later, I went somewhere, and it was almost like you've seen Interstellar, right?
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. Well, when he's like goes in behind that bookshelf, like it was almost like I went there, in the fabric of space and time. Like I went somewhere, I disappeared. And then I remember waking up, and I just kind of had this moment to myself where I'm like, okay, like I know I opened up a doorway. I know I went to a different dimension, because there was this blank space. And then the next day I woke up, and then I was on this different timeline, this different path. And I was back on the grind again, like I was back, I was getting up at 4 a.m., 3:30. I was going back to the gym in the morning. So, it's all about, the choices and just tapping into this other frequency.
Absolutely. As you say that, the way that I see that, as you were explaining that and how that links to sort of my worldview, I think that your soul, either depending on, and this is, I guess, also based off the stuff that I've read, but depending on, how aware you are and what lessons you've learned, I think your soul either pre-programs things for yourself, or things and lessons get programmed for you for this experience, this matrix. And I think you have choices in the matrix, either to listen to that or to not listen to that. But I think you do get pushed in and given hints and stuff. So I wonder if, perhaps all these experiences that you have, maybe if this is something that you were always meant to experience, and if it wasn't that one time, maybe you'd get another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity to learn the exact lessons that you need to learn for this life. So I wonder if you grabbed on to an opportunity, but if you would have had several after that anyway.
Woo.
And then you chose something different, and you went back to a different lifestyle, and then you got another kick to go back in a direction that's serving your soul growth and evolution again.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying. Look, I could have this conversation with you, right? And like, this is probably the best way to explain it. Let's say I went and isolated myself for 6 months, and then I just jumped back out and started blending with society. You know, I could go and have a conversation with you and then explain to you or decode everything I feel and see and the whole design of it all. Like I could have that conversation with you, you know, within the first week, 2 weeks of going back into society. And to me saying it to you, you might hear it and it might sound very weird, right? But I might hear other people around the world that word it the exact same, translate it the exact same, you know, say the exact same thing that I do, where like with everything that's happening in the world, like I was having conversations with my friends saying, this is what's happening, that's what's happening, this is what's happening. A week later, I was hearing people on the other side of the world, you know, talk about what exactly what I was saying. So I don't know if there's something that's a bigger collective scale here, you know,
Yeah.
which, you know, going back to the awakening sort of side of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that power of evil, that power of good, like, I don't know if there's something there that a lot of people are tuning into and tapping into
Yeah.
where more and more and more people are waking up. Like,
Yeah.
some people you can hear speak and you're like, you sound cuckoo, you know, but it's because they are so higher up, because I now am where they were 5 years ago. So I hear people say things to me and I'm like, bro, I've been saying that since March, and that, now these people are hearing it. Like now these people are just waking up. So some of these people that are waking up sound like me 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I think that the more you
Yep.
unplug, the more you introduce in your life, the more you sort of disconnect from that mainstream, even though it tries to suck you in, the more you disconnect yourself from that reality, you know, like I'll tell people about the virus. I'll tell people about the attack and what the mask means and it being a psychological war and all these things. And people just stand there and listen. And like, it's like, they're like, oh, that makes sense. That makes way more sense than what I'm hearing on the TV, you know? And yeah, it's very bizarre. What's
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence. If I do think that this is a very particular moment in time, and I do think that this what we're living in is a whole host of catalysts for experience. Like I said earlier, I think we're in a time period where we are getting pushed one way or another, and that as many people, I do believe that souls have come here to help make choices in which way to go. And I do think it's a privilege and an honor to be on this planet right now and to experience these things the way that we do and to have these opportunities. And as chaotic as it is sometimes, I do think that I don't think it's a coincidence that so many people are feeling that calling like you have, and like so many of us have, you know, you live one way your whole life, and then it seems like so many around the same time start questioning things and opening themselves up to new things and new ways of being and new information, and then connecting. And if you go back to this collective consciousness thing and like the 100th monkey effect and all this stuff, I don't think it's coincidence. I think this great awakening, I think it's a spiritual, I think there's a spiritual component to it. That's a force that is driving this, and that we are here to experience. Those of us that choose to experience it, I believe we have contracted with some higher force to come experience this, and we have been guided to come here to be open enough to experience it. I definitely
and I think that this is why, like myself, and just to make it clear, and obviously yourself, because I know what side of the fence you're on, but this is why I can't just fully sort of discredit the Q thing. This is why I think that there's something more to it, but it's just unfortunate that some people have took it within their own and translated this and formed this community where they've blown it out of the water, where I think before I've mentioned it to you and I said, yes, there is something to that, but also you've got to connect that to that and this and this and this and add it all up and just go like, if I was to be able to put this on like a big sort of concrete slab or a big board, like a massive board, and just like picture this and picture that and picture this and picture that and connect all the dots and just throw it out there and project it all, like, and just go, here, this is it. You would be like amazed. You'd be mind blown. You'd be like, holy shit. And this is how I feel. Like I get connected to that. There's hope. Like this is, you're right. When we may not go into that, Trump is the Antichrist. Trump done this deliberately. Q is a psyop. We are going into the agenda. It is going to be doom and gloom. That scenario is being played out in this shift in reality. But, this force is, we need to get on that. This is why I've taken to YouTube. This is why my Instagram is the way it is. Because I'm like, I've got to get it out. Like, this is a battle.
Yeah.
Like, we all need to get on top of this. We all need to sort of fight this thing, So, but
absolutely. And I think and Q and all that, I think they're just one, like you just said, visualizing that big board, they're one piece of this gigantic puzzle. And what's happened to me, your experience of that, you think back to that one experience and all the ways that it led you to the life you're living now. And I've had a similar sort of thing, but it's more like the things that I started researching independently that used to be independent topics, like there is so much overlap and so much merging. And as I now see it as like this board, this whole, and of things, so many things connecting together. And the whole Q thing, it's one thing of many things that informs my worldview and stuff. So believing in this this force of like hope and good comes from a lot more than just Q. And I think and again, I'm always open to possibilities of being wrong in that hope. I'm always open to that, which I think a lot of people are not. Some people, I think everyone that's so set in their ways of thinking and believing, I think it's you're closing yourself off straight away. But even from personal experiences, I just believe there's a good force out there. I just do. I just believe that there is light, and that what we're experiencing right now is not a coincidence. I think this was something that even astrologically was going to happen in one shape or another, no matter what. I think we were going to be put in this point.
Well, this is where like I can tie this into so many different ways of, the Mayan calendar said that we're going into this new world where the old one's going to be discontinued. And you look at, let's say Trump did sort of disconnect or dismantle the old empire. And let's say that the last 2,000 years in this time of the birth and death of Christ, that we have been in this Luciferian sort of dark age, divide, conquer, World War I, World War II, all these things. Like, the Mayan calendar predicting this new earth. We are in this ascension. We are going to the age of Aquarius. We are moving to this age of feminine. The earth is going through a rebirth. That's why there's all this clutter and all this shit going on, like we maybe are going to this 1,000-year light, this good, this love, this is where it's leading, but by chance, and there is 7.8 billion people on the planet. And if you think about, the history of our species or how far we've come. You know, you go back 100 years and you look at the world's population, like it's almost like in 100 years, the world's populated by doubled in say 50%. So say, you know, these numbers aren't correct, but you understand my point. But, you know, let's say in early 1900s, there was, you know, 3.5 billion people. Then now 2020, there's 7.8. You know, you look at the time clock of all of that, and let's just say this civilization's been around for 10,000, 12,000 years. It's, you can't say that that growth in population over the last 100 years compared to the last 10, 12,000 years, that by chance that now there's 7.8 billion people on this planet right now to experience this point in time, you know, but for what reason? You know, are we all here? Are we all here to experience the grief that humanity's caused towards the planet, you know, with the climate change and the earth need healing? Like, you know, there's all these different things that you can ask, you know, why are we all here at this time? Like, are we all here to fight that last battle where, you know, we're going to stop being selfish, you know, we're going to drop the ego, we're going to stop being all these things, we're going to stop labeling, we're going to stop calling people terrorists, we're going to stop calling people bigots, we're going to stop all these horribleness or this left and right bullshit. Like, you know, when's it going to stop? When is the first person going to change to say, oh, we're all the same? You know, we don't need to be Black Lives Matter. We don't need to be Antifa. We don't need to be, you know, white. Like, we don't need to be all these things that put us in these categories, because we're not progressing. We're not moving forward. You know, so whatever's happening now is happening for a reason, you know. And you know, some people, all they care about is that Mercedes and how many followers they have, and they don't care about anything else, you know. But there's people like me and you that like banging on a door to say, you know, what's next? Like, because I can feel it. Like, where's this
feel
going?
it. It's tangible. It's so tangible.
Yeah.
I think you need to tune into it. I think you need to tap into it. And that's, the people that are still caught up in all that materialism and that matrix life, I think they probably need to do more inner work before they can get to this place of it. I guess it's almost like an extra sensory perception. Like, you can just, there's a difference. There's a difference in the, kind of like how you're saying before about like the 90s feeling so different. I mean, I felt that too. It just felt different. And obviously I was a kid back then and everything, but man, there's something in the air. There is just this tangible energy.
And you know, again, like, you can say it's a shift in the timeline. It's all of these things, you know. So
it's funny you say that. A few days ago I was walking down the street and I was like, holy shit, what reality am I in? And I couldn't explain it other than just, it felt different. It was just like, I don't know if anyone's listening to this and they had, I think, what was it, maybe 2 days ago, 3 days ago, if anyone else experienced it at that same time, kind of like maybe like Mandela effect style, like maybe leave a comment or something, because it was within the last few days, and I was just like, whoa, this feels so different. I don't know why.
Sometimes I question to say, is someone moving us around? You know, not if this is a hologram, but a lot, like, I don't know, like sometimes you see a photo of the universe or you see a photo of the stars, you know, somebody out in the outback, and you see this photo of everything, and then you're like, that's right, like, that's real. You know, like, we're so disconnected from that because we're in these light polluted city hubs that you got to stop, you got to look up and go, hang on, there's something more here. Like, we're in this illusion, you know, even though it might not be a magical trick, like, but it's something, you know, somebody knows something. And if me and you are having this conversation, talking about frequency, talking about timelines and tapping into something, like, this is what we're saying. Imagine what they know. Imagine what the controllers of this world actually know. Because they, you know, they themselves, you know, they are the ones beating the drum. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that comes down again. I guess you almost can figure out what they must know to a certain extent by what they put out. So I think when you look at the propaganda and the use of media, I mean, why? If you're just the most normiest of normies, you just got to think like, why is this a media that just is just so biased? You know, at this stage, even they must come to a conclusion that the media is biased and that they sell a narrative. They don't look at both sides of everything. Like, there's so many subjects we can touch on where the media is so one-sided. I mean, like COVID, right? Let's like, if you think about that, there are so many doctors and experts out there that disagree with that narrative, that are coming forward with it, and the media will not report the other side. They will not report it. They will not give an accurate journalistic reporting of it. They have a spin. And tying that back to these controllers of the world and the elite that know and understand things, spiritual things, and things that I guess way more than what we do. But I think the control of the human mind is so important to them. And this awakening, I think, is so must be so scary for them, because you can see how much effort they go into controlling us and keeping in that fear. So I think on some levels you must get that there's a that there really is like a spiritual battle for the human mind. I really think and I think that goes back to how powerful we are and how much more we are than we know.
There's a guy called Andrew Bartiz, and I think it was like maybe 10 years ago. He was talking about the Akashic records and stuff like that. And hearing him talk 10 years ago and then using it now into this world makes a lot of sense. But how he explains things, like, it's not normal. You don't understand what he's saying, because he talks about race wars, and he talks about karmic debt, and he talks about, you know, this other battle that's being played out in space, like it's a space war. But if you look at, you know, if by entities and light and consciousness and stuff like that, and, you know, that by a sort of race and religion, well, we are actually having this battle, but in this skin suit, you know, but it's being controlled by other entities, you know, again, the game controller. So hearing someone like that speak and then thinking about everything that happens now, you're just like, shit, like, this is what this guy's tapped into, you know. Like I think that sometimes, like, some dreams I have, I feel like I get answers to if we're going into a war, or are we positioning into one, and just stuff like that. Like, sometimes I sleep and it's like my mind doesn't stop, but it's not that it doesn't stop. It's like I'm just getting answers to something, you know. People say sort of like download. So, you know, if this guy speaks about this race war, this galactic, like, you know, he must be getting these downloads, and he says he can tap into the Akashic records of civilization and ancient history, and can get all this information that dates back tens and tens and tens of thousands of years. And it's very interesting. And I mean, look, you can't like take it all as true, because it does sound a little bit kooky. But, you know, again, you look at what's being played out with good and evil, all of this stuff, the psychological war, however you want to translate it, like, it does make sense. You know, you look at, you know, there's always hostility in the Middle East, and you've got this thing with, like, you know, the communist Chinese, and you've got white man, that's sort of the British Empire that's conquered everything. You've got Native Americans, you've got Aboriginal, like, you've got all these different native people, where it's always like this tribal battle by different race, but playing it out in a skin suits, but being controlled by a higher consciousness up there in the universe. So
yeah, absolutely. I definitely think we're all just consciousness trapped in a skin suit, which is why I I really hope we get to the point in humanity where we evolve past seeing everything by race and by skin color and by gender and by everything. I'd love to get, I mean, appreciating, the matrix aspect of it and things like that. But for me, I just think that honestly, we're all a consciousness in a skin suit, and that the next lifetime you might be in a completely different one. So I'd love to see humanity get past these discussions and just move forward in our evolution.
Well, I just think that everyone needs to do yoga and deal with their trauma, because in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your personality is something that you're dealing with that's happened in your early childhood days or your teenage years. So everyone has that trauma where they just need to go, this isn't relevant. Like, this is all, and I had this thought the other day where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to be nice to everyone and not judge everyone. But sometimes you get frustrated because people are sheep and they follow the herd, and it's frustrating, and you're just like, you guys act so dumb, and you just don't want to be a part of it. But then sometimes you want to reach out to someone and just say hello, because you feel like, where by sort of not migration, but not immigrants or anything like that, but there are communities that come from abroad and then they're sort of sectioned off, and then they get put on the TV and they class this specific culture into break-ins or robberies and stuff like that. And so the media makes you think that they're the enemy, but then the way that they look at us, they're in fear because they think that our perception of them is what the media says, if that makes sense. So I was thinking to myself, like, you know what, I'm going to start saying hello to more people in the gym that are of this race, because I think they're just as standoffish as I am to them because of what we're told in society, the normal of it all.
Exactly. We need to break these barriers. We really do. Absolutely.
Well, look, it's been a great chat. I think we've covered everything we need to.
A lot.
I think I might break it. I might break it in half, section it off. We should have had this at the beginning, because I think that this topic was interesting than the topic where some people may or may not get it. So I'm gonna separate it and tweak it and edit it a bit, make 2 copies, make a part 1, part 2. So
cool.
So yeah, but look, thank you for being a guest over here. It's I'm always open to speaking to people, because we all need to do more of it, obviously.
Break the barriers.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and I hope we see you as a regular. Make an appearance every now and then to touch on some topics.
Yeah, let's do that. That would be great. And it was an honor, honestly. Thank you for having me, reaching out.
No worries.